This is a Huddle Sports Network broadcast. You can find us on Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, Facebook, and of course YouTube. Get all your NFL news here first.
And welcome to another episode of the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast on the Huddle Sports Network. I'm Taylor Phillips. He's Ed Smith. Got lots on our plate to talk about this week. Lions, Red Wings, Pistons, another Tigers offseason report, including Skubal winning the AL Cy Young Award. Yes, he actually did unanimously. Plus some college sports, both football and basketball, for the Wolverines and Spartans. But first off, going to get Lions out of the way first. That's the main matter.
That's the A side.
Yeah. Lions demolished the Jacksonville Jaguars 52-6 at Ford Field. Of course, as expected, they scored on all 8 possessions because the Jaguars have no defense whatsoever. That's one of the main culprits as to why the Jaguars are now 2-9. Kirby Joseph with an interception. Cedarius Smith with his first sack as a Lion. Jared Goff, a perfect quarterback rating of 158.3, and the Lions are 9-1, the best start since 1934. Just everyone was chipping in, even without Sam Laporta. We told our audience that they'd be fine against the Jaguars, even without Laporta. Everyone else,
and you saw it. Yeah, exactly. I mean, for example, you saw on the very first drive of the game, Goff getting a first down pass to Shane Zylstra, of all people. And then later on in the game, getting a touchdown to Brock Wright. So, again, the depth of this Lions offense continuing to prove itself, and really the depth of this team in general, but especially on the offensive side of the ball. No Sam Laporta, no problem. We'll still come at you with 2 of our tight ends. We trust our guys. You know at the depth they have at the receiver position. You know what they have at the running back position. Their offensive line is tremendous, of course. And with Hendon Hooker getting more and more of these snaps in these blowout wins, especially in the fourth quarter, that gives you confidence in terms of what you have in your backup quarterback and in terms of who's sitting up and lining up behind Jared Goff. So in terms of this offense, you mentioned it, Taylor, 8 drives, going 8 for 8. Really, the only drive they didn't score on was the final one where they went kneel downs. But before that, their first 7 drives, 7 touchdowns. Okay, this offense, the way they're moving, the way they're being efficient, and the production that they're putting up, it is starting to rival, and in some cases, be on par with the likes of what we've seen in the past of the Greatest Show on Turf Rams or the 16-0 Patriots. We're approaching that type of territory, that type of level of efficiency. And frankly, when you have an offense that, like I said before, it is so supremely balanced that they can run the ball at you, they can ground and pound you at will, but they know when to throw it deep and know when to be flashy and be finessed through the air. It's amazing. When you have an offensive line that is set up the way they have been set up, going back to when they drafted Penei Sewell, who, by the way, you saw how he pushed in Montgomery on one of those touchdown runs. Penei should be, in my opinion, he won't win it, but he should be in consideration for Offensive Player of the Year. Frankly, you could say that about a couple of other players on this Lions offense, if we're being quite honest, but Penei definitely speaks out in mine. Taylor Decker did not play in this game. He was still out dealing with a strain with his rotator cuff. I don't know what that means for his status for this week coming up against the Colts, but it was still no problem, no matter. Frank Ragnow was still there. Graham Glasgow was still there. Kevin Zeitler is still there, who, by the way, I think he has adjusted so well. No one has not talked about enough about the impact and the benefit of Zeitler's signing to that offensive line, knowing that he was replacing Jonah Jackson, who, by the way, just got benched by the Rams case you're wondering. So Brad Holmes always seemingly with his eye on the pulse, and if Zeitler, the way he's going, he may feel like want to be sticking around another year or two the way he's going. Ragnow, one of the best centers, if not the best center of the game right now, especially in lieu of Jason Kelsey's retirement. This is Frank Ragnow's last 5 games, okay? He has allowed 0 sacks, 0 QB hits, 0 QB pressures, and according to Pro Football Focus, he has the best run block grade amongst all centers with a 92. You saw the effort that he did in drawing that crucial offsides penalty in the rain against Green Bay. That is and I can go back further of examples of Frank Ragnow's value to this team. Who can forget the big play on 4th down and goal in the playoffs against Vita Vea of all people, standing him up in the wall, standing him up at that line, knowing he was injured, just to make sure that the touchdown was scored. So it goes without saying of how this offensive line's value, especially when they're a complete full unit as they usually are, how much it means to this team. It is their bread and butter. It is their heart and strength. And when you have an offensive line that can set things up for your running game and protect your quarterback, you get the numbers that you get. You get a Jared Goff who, after admittedly having a very awful, horrible, yet somehow miraculous, crazy game last week with the 5 interceptions against the Texans, he came back out with something to prove, and he proved it. 412 yards, 4 touchdowns, only 5 incompletions. With that perfect 158.3 passer rating, that was his 5th game just this year alone where he had a passer rating of 129 or more. Add in the fact that he was showing off a little bit of his vanilla Vic, as Alex Anzalone once phrased it, by showing off with 4 rushes for 22 yards. Mobile Golf season was definitely in effect. And in my opinion, with this performance, yes, he had the bad performance against Houston. Everyone has those kind of days. Peyton Manning has had bad days. Tom Brady has had bad days. Okay, it happens. But what happens next is how do you handle it? And Goff handled it very well. He put himself, in my opinion, back in the MVP race, along with Lamar Jackson still in there, even though he had the bad loss against the Steelers, and of course Josh Allen with his performance against the Chiefs. But Goff, again, he learned from his mistakes. He shrugged it off. He had the next play up mentality. And when you have receivers like Amon-Ra St. Brown, who can the last time that he played against Jacksonville, had about 11 catches, 114 yards. This time around, 161 yards, 2 tutties. This was the 8th straight game with a touchdown catch. Not only is that a franchise record, but that is currently tied for 3rd most, or along that half line of most of that such streak in the NFL since 1970, which was basically the year of the merger. So again, fine historic company when you consider what this Lions offense has been able to produce, and has been consistent in producing through its key players at key positions. Another key player in that regard would be Jameson Williams. JMO, big game for him. Set a career high in 124 receiving yards, had that big 64-yard touchdown. He is currently 2nd in the league, in the entire league, in terms of yards per catch. That right there is Jameson Williams' ability and the reasoning for him being drafted in the first place being summed up right there. He is one of the biggest, if not the most impactful big play receivers in the league. And we're talking about guys that like Tyreek Hill and Mike Evans, for example, Justin Jefferson, for example, Jamar Chase. J-Mo's on that type of level, being that big play receiver. You need a big catch, or you need a quick strike, or you need a back-breaking touchdown. J-Mo's that guy for you. And of course, when you have the running back duo Sonic and Knuckles, Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, Jahmyr now with his 69 yards on the ground and a rushing touchdown, now has about 818 rushing yards for this season. He's slowly approaching 1,000 yards on the ground. So that's one check mark that he can say for himself. The other check mark is getting to that 1,000 yards receiving. That might be a little bit more difficult, but I will say this. Currently, he is the 4th most in terms of averaging yards, scrimmage yards per game. Jahmyr Gibbs is 4th most. And we're talking about the only people are ahead of them, I believe, are Saquon, Derrick Henry, and Xavier Henry. Derrick Henry and one more person. But yeah, Jahmyr Gibbs as proving why the Lions were well within their work drafting him when they drafted him in the first round last year. He's on pace to potentially have a real rather historic season in terms of yards per scrimmage. And David Montgomery, now with this 2 rush touchdowns of his own, tied for 3rd most rush touchdowns in the league. So when your offense is literally clicking and rolling on all cylinders, this is the results that you expect, especially when you're facing a team that is as dead in the water as Jacksonville is right now. So the Lions did what they were supposed to do. They came out with something to prove, for sure. They came out as if they had lost that game against the Texans, not had won it. So that's the mentality that you love to see, and they enforced it all throughout their game, all throughout that game on Sunday. And with the defense especially, like you see Brian Branch looking like a missile. Kirby Joseph getting another interception. That is the best safety. We talked about the Lions having the best running back duo. We're not talking about the fact that they may also have the best safety duo in the league as well, with Brian Branch and Kirby Joseph. Joseph now with 7th interceptions on the season. That is the league lead in terms of interceptions. He's had about 15 now in his career, and going back to when he was drafted, which is 22, excuse me. That is, I believe, the most of any cornerback in the entire league. And when you have the rookie Terrion Arnold, he's starting to make adjustments. You remember of how the flags were flying all over the place for him in the first half of the season? Well, ever since he's had 8 penalties in the first 4 games, he's only gotten 2 in the last 6. Now that speaks to a lot of things, and I think one thing, as Birchie from 97.1 and Fox 2 had pointed out, refs we're talking to him and letting them know, hey kid, we study the tape, we see how sticky you are with some of these guys. As long as you turn your head at the point of the route, you're good. If you don't turn your head to the ball, we're going to flag you. And so TA, as Dan Campbell nicknamed him, he made that adjustment. He made that awareness. And as you've seen in the numbers in terms of being productive with his pass breakups, with his coverage, not giving up yardage, not giving up big plays, and of course, most importantly, cutting down the turnovers, you're seeing that development, you're seeing that improvement in real time. And really at this point, the only thing missing is the interceptions, because he already got a fumble recovery. So the only thing missing for him is the interceptions, but those will come in due time. Just let your safeties ball out the way they've been balling out. Learn from your experienced veterans like Robertson and Carlton Davis, and the soon-to-be returning Emmanuel Mosley, and let your skills develop from there. Now, there was unfortunately a bit of a negative, though, because despite all the positives of seeing, Zadarius Smith getting a sack in his Lions debut, and Jack Campbell being credited with a half sack on as well, and getting a game ball for his efforts, there was still some bad news. Alex Anzalone broke his forearm. That is a big miss, a big hurt, because again, not only is that another starter amongst your front 7, that is one of your team captains, that is your best linebacker, one of your leading tacklers, if not your leading tackler on the whole team. So now missing him for almost potentially the rest of the regular season, that's another ouchie. There's no bones about it. Yeah, you got Zadarius back. Zadarius in essentially to replace Aiden, but now you have to rely on other guys to step up in the linebacking core, like Malcolm Rodriguez, like Ben Neiman, for example. Now Jack Campbell, exactly. Now Cracker Jack has been showing tremendous development now. I believe either be compared to either this year or his first 2 years combined. But in terms to, according to Pro Football Focus, he has 13 defensive run stops. I believe it's this year alone. Yes, 13 defensive run stops. That's amongst the most of any player on the defensive side of the ball in the NFL, or at least at his position. So guess what? This is now that test for him. You got to now show us why Brad Holmes decided to take that chance and draft you as high as he did, because now you have to step up. Because good. You have Rodrigo next to you at least, but guess what? Now you're out Barnes, and now you're out Anzo, and you don't know how Reeves Maben's going to be when he's going to be back, because he's dealing with injury right now. So in terms of Jack Campbell, it's on him and Malcolm Rodriguez to essentially carry the load for the linebackers and now for the linebacking unit. Now I'll be really curious to see how that unit will perform over the next few weeks, or at least as we get closer to Anzalone making his return. Because if he were to make his return, he would have at the very near earliest be able to sneak in on the end of the season. But if he has to miss the full 8 weeks, he'll still be ready in time for the playoffs. And
Yeah, he will.
Yeah, and by the way, we must give we've been talking enough about Ben Johnson, him getting his kudos and his flowers. We need to give again. We need to stay giving flowers to Aaron Glenn, because the performances that he's been getting out of this defense week after week after week after week, especially with injuries starting to pile up now, I will be very much shocked if he is not a head coach next year in the NFL. And trust me, there are some openings, and I think there might be some openings that are tailor-made to fit his style, to fit the type of culture he wants to bring, and the type of mentality that he wants to have, for not just on the defensive side of the ball, but also for the whole defense. So Aaron Glenn, if he is a coach next year, he will have well earned it.
Yep, he will. So we'll keep our eyes on those types of things. So the Lions, before we get to the Indianapolis Colts, of course, Anzalone is out 6 to 8 weeks with a broken forearm. But as far as other players are concerned, Sam Laporte is back in. We already know that. Carlton Davis and Shane Silstra also were full practice all week. So they're apparently both back in.
Terrion Arnold was dealing with a groin injury, so he may be questionable. But
he is questionable, along with Emmanuel Mosley. So both
Mosley,
may come down to a game-time decision.
As I mentioned before, though, Mosley is more than likely good to go. He'll be more than
Good. Ennis Rakestraw is out with a hamstring injury.
Yeah, and remember, Fatu Melifonwu, as Dan Campbell mentioned in this week's press conferences, he had suffered a recent injury in practice. This is different from the current injury that he was dealing currently on IR from. But of course, that set a delay on his potential comeback. So we'll have to keep an update progress to see how that goes for him. But you hate to see it if he was has been a tremendous playmaker from the defensive side of the ball in the past couple of years, especially last year late in the season when he helped clinch the division for us in terms of his blitzing and, of course, making that big interception against the Vikings. So having him would be a very necessary depth piece to have right about now, especially with other injuries piling up on our front seven. There seems to be more potential chance to leave our secondary feeling more vulnerable. So if you get more guys back, guys like Mosley, guys potentially like Melifonwu, hopefully Rakestraw can come back down the line as well. That's all the depth that you're going to need, especially when you're gearing up for the playoffs.
Yes, of course. And then you got the Indianapolis Colts at Lucas Oil Stadium Sunday at 1. That's on Fox, not CBS. Yeah, let me change that. There we go. Sunday at 1 on Fox. Had to change the banner here for those listening later on in audio form. So the Colts are ranked 31st in time of possession offensively at an average of 26 minutes and 40 seconds per game. And they ranked second in the NFL this season with an average of 66.9 defensive snaps per game. That's not good for either side of the ball for the Colts. And the Lions offensive unit should have zero problems with the Colts' lack of defense. They just need to take full advantage. Now, Anthony Richardson may have thrown 20 of 30 for 272 passing yards and 1 touchdown in the Colts' comeback win on the road against the New York Jets, 28-27. But one X factor that I read on ESPN earlier today for the Colts, wide receiver Josh Downs catching all 5 targets from quarterback Anthony Richardson for 19.4 fantasy points. So the secondary is going to have to, receiving defense is going to have to look out for him and cover him as best they can.
Yeah, Downs will be the key. It'll be like similar to the Tampa game where essentially Chris Godwin kept burning you all up and down the field. You can't let that happen again in this type of similar situation. Richardson has clearly found a guy he likes to lock in on, especially with him being a young player. So if you are able to set up some disguises, some nice coverage schemes, as well as also the general coverage of just locking down Downs and forcing Richardson to look somewhere else, you could be setting yourself in the position to where the offense for the Colts would be playing into those statistics. Short drives, not staying on the field, and therefore leading to their defense getting worn out. Like the amount of snaps that you mentioned before, on average, I expect that to potentially line up as well here, because the Lions, trust me, even though they don't mind throwing it and being creative with the ball, their DNA is ground and pound, run the ball down your throat and control the clock. And this is tailor made for them to do that from the word go. Like I said, soften them up with body blows from David Montgomery, then bring in Jameer Gibbs for the haymakers. That seems to be the proven formula for the Lions going ever since that bad loss against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So I would expect that type of consistency to continue here in this one. Now, on the flip side of things, while it's not just Anthony Richardson that you have to worry about and deal with, again, he brings a unique skill set problem of his own. It'll be a good test for this defense, especially now with the added injuries to the front seven and the linebacking and now Alex Anzalone. Interesting to see how much are they going to be able to contain Richardson with his running and his legs, because he did have 2 rush touchdowns last week. And dealing with mobile quarterbacks has not always been easy for this Lions defense. Aaron Glenn has said famously that he does not believe in spying the quarterback. So we'll see how that will get tested. Jonathan Taylor, one of the best run backs in the league. However, he did have a frustrating game last weekend against the Jets. Only gave up. He was held to, I believe, 2.4 yards rushing yards per carry. So the Lions did something very similar to Joe Mixon. I will believe that, again, they're getting a bit of a stiffer test in Jonathan Taylor, but if they are able to hold him to a similar output to what we've seen them do to most running backs over the course of this season, they'll be in good company there. Because you're looking at a Colts defense, because of they've had, being on the field so long, they've given up in the past 2 weeks alone 27 or more points. And that's including to a New York Jets team with a clearly washed Aaron Rodgers. So if a clearly washed Aaron Rodgers can put some points on this Colts defense, there's no reason that this Lions team can't, provided that they, of course, just take care of the football. Now, there will be some chances, though, for that Colts defense to cause some type of turnover or takeaway, and it will start and end with them trying to get pressure on the quarterback. And Kwity Paye, Michigan fans, you will remember that name, Kwity Paye. He's had, I believe, 3 sacks in the last 4 games. So he'll be a player to keep an eye on in terms of potential X factors for the Colts, at least on the defensive side of things. But that being said, this Lions team has averaged as a whole against the AFC South Division so far 43.3 points. We're talking about against the Titans, the Texans, and last week against the Jags. They've averaged amongst that span 43.3 points. So are we expecting another 40 burger, maybe 50 burger against the Colts? I doubt that, especially on the road. The Lions are a 7.5 point favorite. That is an interesting spread to look at, especially for a team that's favored on the road. But I could see the Lions just doing what they do best, running the ball, taking care of the ball, finishing drives with touchdowns, and their defense bending but not breaking, getting stops, not giving up multiple touchdowns through the air at least, and getting that necessary takeaway. Because, again, that team that they played as a complete team game as you could think of last week against Jacksonville. Only thing was missing was that takeaway, and they got it thanks to Kirby Joseph. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see a similar type of performance in this one, albeit with a different score. I'm not expecting another 52-6 beatdown, but I could see this being a 31-17, 34-17 type of deal where the Lions, they'll win and they'll put up enough points, and their defense will play hard-nosed enough to where, Indy will try to keep it close, but it's just not going to be enough. And I don't see the Colts covering. I could see them maybe trying to get a last-minute field goal to maybe get to 20 points. But I could see the Lions at least putting up
in garbage time.
Yeah, in garbage time. But I could see the Lions at least putting up 30 and holding the Colts to 20 or under. So yeah, Lions to win and cover is my pick.
All right, so I'm going to pick the Lions 34 and the Colts 20. So the Lions will be able to cover there, win by 14. So Sunday at 1 on Fox, Lions at Colts. It's going to be
Fight.
Lions. It's going to be Lions Day at the Coliseum for the Kalkaska Battlers Sunday afternoon when the Battlers semi-pro hockey team faces off against the Buffalo Tempest. I'll be there to call both games on Saturday night and Sunday afternoon.
Be wishing you luck on that one. And by the way, one last quick note on the Lions. This is kind of important mark for them to try and finish up November strong while starting December on a good note, because they're getting ready to play 3 games in about 10 days. So you got this week, you got this Sunday, and they got Thanksgiving against the Bears, and then you got the Thursday night game against the Packers. So they got to be ready to be as endurable as possible, because this is not an easy stretch you're going to get through, especially with 2 divisional games as well.
Bring them on. So, and ahead of time, our next episode after this is going to be Wednesday night with a time to be determined, of course, prior to the Thanksgiving Day game against those Chicago Bears. Can't take them lightly either. The Bears are still in the hunt. They're not as great as they're still not good.
But they're still falling up. They're starting to fall apart though. Ever since that Hail Mary against Washington, they've been in a free fall ever since. They just fired their offensive coordinator. Matt Eberflus may be dead man walking. So we'll see how it goes for Chicago. But yeah, they're in free fall right now.
Yep. So the Red Wings got swept in 3 games in California. First off, they lost to 2 last place teams, the Anaheim Ducks and the San Jose Sharks. 6-4 Ducks and 5-4 in overtime in the Sharks. In between, they lost badly to the Wings lost badly to the Los Angeles Kings 4-1, simply by getting unanimously outshot 41-18, and then they come back home Thursday night. They fall behind early 1-0 to the New York Islanders. Simon Holmstrom tipped a deflected shot from the point through the slot, but it stayed that way until under 5 minutes to go, when Jonathan Berggren stole the puck off a broken Islander stick and went on a breakaway and beat Sorokin top shelf to tie it at 1. And then Dylan Larkin chased the puck around, won the puck battle in the near corner of the end boards, and then fed Lucas Raymond for a juicy goal through the slot inside the left faceoff circle, beating Sorokin top shelf again with 51.1 seconds left to give the Red Wings a 2-1 lead, and they would hang on to win 2-1. But there's still a lot more work for the Wings to do, of course. They're starting at the top with their head coach, Derek Lalonde.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason, because that West Coast trip was an absolute disaster, man. When you give up 4 or more goals in all 3 of those games, you're giving up 4 goals in just 1 period alone to a Ducks team that's under 500. When you can't even handle taking care of a 10 loss Sharks team, then you're having problems, my man. And it starts and ends with how you're performing defensively, how you're getting bullied and punked around in terms of puck control and shot production. And despite some of the best efforts from guys like Dylan Larkin and Lucas Raymond and Patrick Kane and Alex Bregman, you still have middling goaltending. Like Alex Lyon, he's almost at under 900% with save percentage. He's got 2.85 goals allowed per average. Talbot is not, he's a little bit better, slightly better record, but he's got 2 OT losses, slightly better goals allowed average, slightly better, but not much in terms of save percentage. And it's been noteworthy. Like the regression from the goaltending has been very troubling. And there was a reason why some were speculating as to what the Red Wings could have done this offseason, maybe getting a Gibson, for example. But that did not come to fruition, and now we see what we're left with. So Yzerman has got to do much better in that field. I'm not above criticizing him for that, as well as to how this season has gone with what we've done in the offseason, or we tried to have done in the offseason to get better, and it's not resulted in that so far. I know you're in a bad division because despite your record, despite your standing within that division, you're still not that far out of one of the wild card spots. So that just speaks to how things are still okay for now. It's still an early start to the season. Things can still be turned around, but this is far from impressive. And if you're Derek Lalonde, I would be concerned about being in the hot seat. Do I think Eisman would consider pulling the trigger and firing a coach midseason? No. Unless things get drastically horrible as to where the players stop giving effort, they quit on their coach, they're getting blown out left and right, then yeah, then absolutely, obviously changes will have to be made. But for now, I think it's just going to be wait and see.
Yeah, the drastically horrible days were under Jeff Blashill only. So I may not be so sure about letting go of Derek Lalonde quite yet.
Still, no, this is year 6. This is year 6 now of this tenure, and we're nowhere. We've only have one glimpse of progress and positivity, and that was that last few weeks stretch of the regular season where we almost got into the playoffs. Other than that, it's just been middling, futility, and mediocrity, and that's unacceptable.
Yep, and just not much progress or any progress whatsoever. They're taking backward steps. So the Red Wings are home against the Boston Bruins Saturday at 7 on FanDuel Sports Network Detroit Extra, and then they rematch with the New York Islanders Monday at 7:30 on FanDuel Sports Network Detroit. And of course, they're home against the Calgary Flames next Wednesday at 7:30 on FanDuel Sports Network Detroit. So 3 big games against the Bruins, Islanders, and Flames, but the Red Wings just have to clean up their play. They got to play smarter. Even Mickey Redmond pointed that out after their California 3-game disaster prior to the Islanders game.
Think of it now. We'll think of it like this now. You just had that road trip. You got out the way. Now you have, including last night's game, you have this essentially mini homestand. 3 of your next 4 games are at home. Let's see what you do over the course of this next week. If things start to get worse, then the calls in the hot seat are going to grow more and more, and I don't blame it. But we'll see what happens with this week.
Yep. And then you got the Pistons. They beat the Toronto Raptors 99-95 on the road at Scotiabank Arena, but then they lost 2 straight. They fell flat to the Chicago Bulls, 122-112, and then they went to Spectrum Arena earlier this week. They fell behind plenty of times, but they kept coming back. They forced overtime in a 109-109 tie, forcing overtime through 4 quarters, but the Hornets managed to pull away. But the Pistons made a comeback, but felt just short. 123-121 in overtime. I'm going to go over a few players here. Tim Hardaway Jr. in that Hornets game, only as in the starting lineup, 2 points, 1 rebound, 1 assist, and a -24 in 21 minutes flat in the starting lineup. Malik Beasley off the bench, 34 minutes, 23 seconds, 16 points, 6 rebounds, 1 assist, and a +11 in that same game. Now you see the comparison. I get you need the bench, at least some of the bench players, or saving one of your other best players for bench, just for backup offensive utility purposes. But really, Tim Hardaway Jr. is not producing at all. Period.
Well, in his defense, he is literally coming off of an injury where the back of his head got bashed in. So he might be dealing with some lingering effects of that injury, just saying. But I do agree, he still needs to perform better, needs to get better than that. But by the way, he's not the only one that should be in this roasting. Tobias Harris, where the hell have you been?
Tobias Harris, 26 points and 8 rebounds in that Hornets game, by the way.
But he's been complete ass leading up to that point. He was horrible against the Bucks. He's been useless again. He was useless against the Bulls. He's been very much just a disappointment for the start of the season so far. I've not been impressed at all by Tobias Harris. And Jalen Duren, he's still a work. He's showing some growing pains, I'll say at least. Yeah, he had the 22 rebounds or whatever against the Bulls, but he got 8 up against Zach LaVine in crunch time. They kept going to LaVine over and over and over again, and no one on that defense, Duren especially, had an answer for him. So he's got to get better at that. And Jaden Ivey, what was it? 1 for 8, 1 for 9 down the stretch in the fourth quarter in overtime against Charlotte. Come on, man!
Right now, he can't shoot.
All he has is granted, he's a great driver. He can drive and finish at the rim and at the basket exceptionally well. But he's got to start proving that he can hit a jump shot, especially in situations where he was the de facto guy because Cade went down. Cade hurt his hip and was not able to go in that OT against the Hornets. So when you have that and you have Brandon Miller and LaMelo Ball going off on you, that's a bad recipe. And now, if you're Jaden Ivey, you can't just follow it up by being cold at crunch time. You just can't.
No. And Cade Cunningham, in technicality, has a pelvis injury. He's out for Saturday's game against the Orlando Magic. That's at Amway Arena, Saturday at 7 on FanDuel Sports Network Detroit. Then the Pistons are home against those Toronto Raptors Monday at 7 on FanDuel Detroit Extra. And then at the Memphis Grizzlies Wednesday at 8 on FanDuel Detroit. So
I think they also close it out with another game later that week against the Pacers.
That's on Friday, isn't it?
Yeah, Friday or Saturday, and I believe that's another NBA Cup game as well. That's another Emirates Cup game. At least there'll be a chance for them to potentially go to 3-0. Within their group and maintain their top status within that division for the NBA Cup. But we'll see. At this point, we got to figure out and focus on closing out these doggone games much better. And what would one benefit that would help with that in terms of speaking of health to our players, Asar Thompson. Asar Thompson has been practicing lately. He was working with Fred Vinson in shoot around the other day, working on his jump shot. And I'll say this: I have an update that I found online. He was upgraded to questionable for tomorrow against the Magic. Asar Thompson upgraded to questionable. So I don't know if this means he'll be making his debut officially, but I believe within the next week it'll be finally be ready to see Asar make his season debut.
I read on X that he's more likely ready to go. As I check at Michigan_truth on X, taking a really good look here. Let's see. I'm digging it up right now. Still, Cade Cunningham out with a left sacroiliac joint sprain. That's not good for Cade Cunningham. No.
Yeah, that's
absolutely not.
That's the hip pelvis region.
Yep, that's the pelvis. Yep, like I pointed out. So still having a hard time finding out that I thought I retweeted something about Asar Thompson, but from what I can remember, I read that Thompson's actually more likely to go, but I could be wrong. But anyway, he is. Yeah, I read he was questionable as well a bit earlier in the week. So let's keep our fingers crossed for that.
Mm-hmm.
So the Tigers, another Tigers off-season report, but it starts with at the top with Tarik Skubal winning the American League Cy Young Award unanimously. He earned it. That's all I can say.
Yeah, man. He got all 30 first-place votes. There was no question, no doubt who the true best pitcher in the American League was this year. I'm so glad that the writers and the voters agreed on this. This was a guy that not only won the pitching triple crown, he was putting up numbers and production that we hadn't seen since Justin Verlander at his peak, at his prime. And with this, he becomes the first Tiger to win the award since Max Scherzer had done it in 2013. Of course, remember Verlander did it, winning the award 2 years prior in both his Cy Young and MVP award-winning season in 2011. So Tarik Skubal, and oh, by the way, he won the award on his birthday. So happy birthday, Tarik Daniel. It's a nice feather in his cap. It is validation of what many have been seeing and hoping to see out of him now for the past couple of years come to fruition. It's a certification that he is amongst the best of the best in terms of pitching, best pure pitchers in all of baseball. He's one of the best pitchers in the world, without question. This solidifies it. And also this solidifies one thing. He needs to get paid. Chris Ilitch, stop screwing around and pay that man his money.
Question is, does he have the balls to pay players instead of pay for other things such as luxury seats at Comerica Park? From what I read,
we have new seats. We have new seats and Ferris wheels and new scoreboards. Cool.
Right? Who the hell cares about that stuff?
Yeah, the fans want to see wins. Okay, they don't want to see Ferris wheels. They want to see wins.
Yeah, no gimmicks.
They want to see more playoff games. Okay,
yeah,
that
no more
feeling
gimmicks.
that you saw. You know, seeing all those sold out seats in October at Comerica, that's what happens when you win. And how do you maintain that? By spending money to get the best players for your team and surround them around your best talent. You need another pitcher in this offseason, preferably a right-handed pitcher, to be that number 2 next to Skubal, especially since you gave away Flaherty. So you need a right-handed bat in that lineup. You need, say, for example, a Lance Bregman. Maybe you pull off a trade for Vladdy Guerrero. Something.
Alex Bregman, that is. Yeah.
Excuse me, Alex Bregman. My apologies, but yes,
they showed interest in Alex Bregman, actually, according to the score. Holy cow!
Right. So the Tigers and the Red Sox and the Astros are the 3 teams that we know of at the moment. But
depends on the price. Bregman does have a link to AJ Hinch.
Yes, there's that as well. But I think this is going to come down to, hey, what are you willing to put on the table to get a guy like that here? And for Bregman's case, will money even be that much of a factor for him, or will it be more so of him wanting to play with AJ again? That'll be something to look at. But you got to do something. You got to show that, you know.
Sounds like a big 50-50 balance.
Right, because and show that the words that from Scott Harris earlier this month, which is nothing but a smokescreen. Okay.
Right. So speaking of Tarik Skubal, though, he's one of the 7 arbitration eligible players with tendered contracts. Along with the others are Casey Mize, Jake Rogers, Will Vest, Jason Foley, Matt Vierling, and Bo Brisky.
Yeah, those are your bullpen guys that you need to get deals done or locked down on as quick and fast as possible. But you got to be fair to them.
Arbitration.
Yeah, but you got to be fair to them.
Right.
I think that then they just there was a couple of players that they just avoided arbitration with either today or yesterday.
There were. I can go over them one at a time. Zach McKinstry, first off, a 1-year, $1.65 million contract, which is cheap. Robert Murray of the Baseball Insiders podcast reported that first. He gets the first credit, and then Andy Ibanez, infielder, let alone particularly mostly second baseman, a 1-year, $1.4 million contract. So both of those arbitration avoidance contracts, both just 1 year, very cheap, just over $1 million for each. So apparently, as far as they're kind of sort of partially on track to like stay the course, other than showing interest in Alex Bregman. To tell you the truth.
Well, yeah, it looks like that way, but we'll see what winter meetings, what the winter meetings gives us, and what updates it can provide from there.
Right. I was just going to add, staying the course is not even is definitely not good enough. If you want to upgrade your roster to actually make a deeper playoff run, then almost making the ALCS, blowing two chances to dispose of the Cleveland Guardians, as we recall.
Yeah, staying the course is not the should not be the objective for this offseason, especially coming off of a season like that.
Never.
No.
Transitioning to college sports, starting with college football, the Michigan Wolverines have recruited a new quarterback, Bryce Underwood from LSU. So some have positive, other have negative feelings about that, but we need your analysis, please.
My goodness, this was frankly, I'll say this was an early Christmas and Thanksgiving present all wrapped up into one for Michigan fans for the year that they've had to, well, the season that they've had to endure, frankly, the year that they've had to endure with on the field and off the field issues, news, headlines, and seeing the on-field product as a result of all of this. This was the news that they so desperately needed and wanted to see. They get a tremendous flip from LSU to Michigan. This was the consensus number one ranked recruit, not just quarterback, the consensus number one ranked recruit for the entire 2025 class. You name it, 24/7 Sports, ESPN, Yahoo, you name it. This kid's the real deal. And the best part of it is he's homegrown. He's a Belleville native, went to Belleville High School. He has grown tremendously into his frame and his body. He's currently 6'3", 208 pounds. You know, when you see of how he operates on the field, dual threat, obviously, but sure, athletic frame. You see comparisons to guys before him. We've seen before Trevor Lawrence, C.J. Stroud, Vince Young, Bryce Young, Quinn Ewers. You know, where this is basically in terms of the era of online recruiting, going back about 24, 25 years. These are the names that we've seen being used in comparison to hype up Bryce with his play and development. And I'll say this, between seeing how LSU has turned into a complete clown show with Brian Kelly being the biggest clown of them all, seeing how, we are in a new era of NIL. And for once, Michigan decided, nope, we're going to take this seriously when it comes to NIL. And we're going to offer whatever it's going to take, and then some to get this kid to sign with us. And you're seeing reports now, it was not the $10.5 million. Apparently, we're hearing that maybe closer more to 12 or 12.5 million.
That's not great.
So I think one of the boosters that put in on this deal, he got the kid because his wife, wanted to see Michigan get a quarterback this year. You see Dave Portnoy of Barstool Sports, essentially even before this, being open and publicly saying, yeah, I'm going to put in about $1 million in the pool to help Michigan get a quarterback. And then with Sharon Moore, frankly, Sharon Moore was being sly about this the whole time because he was hearing questions over the past few weeks about, is there anything, do you have any concerns or worries about what the quarterback room is going to look like for next year and beyond? And he essentially said no, with a straight face, as stoic as possible. And looking back on that probably was a giveaway, a hint that maybe he knew more of the situation than what he was letting on. Because when you're talking about the amount of money that was put in to get him, seeing what recruits that could use to flip in or get to join him along with this transfer or whatever, and also knowing that apparently, according to one report I read, Tom Brady was used in the pitch. Okay, all that being said, hometown kid, you're getting paid truly generational wealth to set up your family for life right out the gate, right then and there. And by the way, you're playing for a Sharon Moore as compared to a Brian Kelly. Yeah, I think this was as good a choice that you can make if you're Bryce Underwood. Do we know if this is going to pay off? We don't know. But this is a big moment, a big win for Michigan. truly needed for what they've been going through this past season.
Yeah, Sharon Moore had to jump on it urgently. He did.
Because this was a big problem. This was going to be a big problem that potentially was going to define his tenure as Michigan coach. Now, knowing for the fact that, hey, we're going to be slowly but surely pushing the likes of Davis Warren and Jack Tuttle and, out the door.
Alex Orgy.
And Alex Orgy, but see what you can provide, get what you can get out of him while you still have him. And knowing that you have guys like Jaden Davis waiting in the wings, and now you have Bryce Underwood coming in, it feels like a sigh of relief for sure.
Yeah. So, man, I definitely can't wait.
Listen, this was the type of thing that we saw Hunter Dickinson critique Michigan about before he left, in terms of them not doing enough of NIL. Well, looks like they learned from that mistake, huh?
Yeah, they finally did. Did.
I'll say this: kudos to Ward Manuel, kudos to Sharon Moore for doing what he had to do. And hey, let's see. Basically, now let's get the floodgates rolling, because now you know what you need. You need to restock and rebuild your offensive linemen through recruiting and in the portal. You need to get yourself some wide receivers, and for the love of God, find a better offensive play caller. That's all you need. That's really all you need, because the defense has been playing lights out as best as they possibly can for this year. And I would not put it past them to put up one more spirited effort against Ohio State next week. I would not put it past them, but it's going to come down to what can this offense do. And frankly, from what we've seen then so far, it's been nothing. So that's why you're looking at potential 6-6 season. That's why you're looking at a potential Mayo Bowl projection against Duke.
If you make it to a bowl game, any sort.
Now, granted, you'll clinch the bowl appearance like with this likely win against Northwestern tomorrow. You're at home. It's senior day. You're a 10.5-point favorite. Northwestern is dog doo-doo. I suspect Michigan should be able, as bad as their offense is, should be able to do enough to win by more than 10 points. I'm just saying. And it's senior day.
Probably a low-scoring affair.
Probably, but I suspect, Michigan to know. They're coming off another bye week. They're at home. Northwestern is just a bad opponent, period. Bad team, I should say. They should be able to get the job done in that and give them some sort of optimism going into Ohio State.
The Wildcats have always been total crap, and they will continue to be unless they make drastic changes from the top.
And yet they're getting an $800 million stadium renovation.
Oh, my gosh. That's a waste of money.
Mm.
Really, the fans don't give a crap about that.
Mm-mm-mm.
Speaking of the Wolverines, their men's basketball team is undefeated at 5-0. These are all I have.
4-1. They did lose to Wake Forest.
To Wake. Oh yeah. So 5-1 actually. Check that. Yeah.
4-1.
Oh, 4-1. We got that 4-1. Yep, that's right. Yeah, it's the first 5 games, not 6. Thank you very much. So anyway, their leaders in points per game: junior guard Trey Donaldson, 13.8. Junior guard Roddy Gale Jr., 11.6, and junior center Danny Wolf, 10.4 points per game. But Danny Wolf has been leading the entire team unanimously in rebounds per game with 8.8, which is tied for 66 in the nation.
Very nice, very nice. And Trey Donaldson, as who was a portal guy from Auburn, he has scored double digits, 10 or more points in every game so far this season. He is as necessary a piece of this team as Namari Burnett is, who is the senior. He did have an off game or so. I think it was against Miami, Ohio, or against one of those other teams, but still, he's an important piece to this team in terms of what he can do offensively and how he can do in this system under Dusty May, which frankly is proving good dividends so far. They have been around that 38, 39, 40% average from 3-point percent from 3-point land as a team. That is considered good, very good numbers to have, especially in modern basketball. But this is what Dusty May and his system has been designed to set up and produce for you. Now they still got to fix up their free throw shooting, which is at 67% as a team, and they got to clean up their turnovers. Fix those up, then you're looking at a team that is truly night and day from what we saw in the past couple of years under Juwan Howard's tenure.
Yeah, and they also have to get more rebounds too on both ends of the court.
Yeah, Wolf can't do it by himself.
No, definitely not. I was gonna touch on that, but the Michigan State Spartans men's basketball team needs more assists per total per game. But the Spartans are 4-1 as well. Yeah, their football team barely held on against Purdue, by the way, 24-17 recently. But back to men's basketball, Spartans led by Tom Izzo, 4-1, as I just mentioned. They're leaders in points per game. Senior guard Jay Nakins, of course, 14.6. Senior forward Frankie Fiddler, 11.8, and junior forward Jackson Kohler with 10.2. So their only loss was to Kansas. 70. I can't. I keep forgetting the score. Damn it. Swang hit. I'm gonna look up that score right about now. It's 77-69 was the final to Kansas before bouncing back against Bowling Green. Yep. The State Farm Champions Classic before bouncing back at home against the Bowling Green Falcons, 86-72. That game was a bit dicey at home in East Lansing at Breslin Center, but the Spartans managed to pull away and get the victory. So still got another. As we look further down the line.
Michigan's got the. I know Michigan has the Fort Myers tip-off coming up, or continuing the Fort Myers tip-off. They started it last night. They're going to continue it later on. I think either tomorrow or Saturday. Well, yeah, tomorrow against Virginia Tech.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, well, although I don't see it on the ESPN app on the MSU men's basketball schedule, it might be on the Spartans app, Michigan State Athletics app, mobile app on the schedule. But anyway, I'm looking at. I was looking at December's games ahead of time. They got Minnesota, Nebraska.
By the way, slight correction. Michigan, Virginia Tech, Monday, 6:00 on FS1. MSU, Colorado, 5:00 Monday on ESPN2. That's going to be the Maui.
Exactly, the Maui Invitational, presented by Novavax.
Yep, and Michigan's got the Fort Myers tip-off.
Yep, Fort Myers. I mean, who do they play there?
They got Virginia Tech.
For Virginia Tech, I'm not seeing it.
For Michigan, that's Virginia Tech.
Oh, Michigan. Okay.
Yeah, okay. And MSU has Colorado at the Maui.
Oh, okay. Yes, we were focusing on Michigan State, but Michigan plays Virginia Tech. I was only looking at the Spartan schedule, but anyway, pretty much everything we've covered. Now, what have we learned?
We learned that the Red Wings are still trying to figure themselves out, unfortunately, even though we thought they figured themselves out at the end of last season. We learned that officially, it's now official, Tarik Skubal is quite possibly the best pitcher on the planet and deserves to get paid as such. We learned that college hoops, or at least off to a better start for the two local teams as opposed to the college football seasons, even though Michigan did pick up the big recruitment flip of Bryce Underwood. We learned that the Pistons are still a team that's learning how to win. That's what's sticking out to me. They're still learning how to win and to win consistently and how to close out games. That will come in due time, I believe, yes, but still, you got to get the right players, the right moments, the right luck at some points to bounce your way.
But you got to be more aggressive too at the same time.
It's got to be smarter too.
Smarter, yes. There you go. Now we're going somewhere. Yes.
But we learn what we've been learning about the Lions, that they're the best team in football. They're a team on a
The Chiefs
mission.
lost.
They're on a team on a mission. And I'll say this, the vibes that I'm starting to see pick up from this Lions team and how they're handling business, their mentality, their approach, how they're coming to each game with a certain type of swagger and how they're handling business, it's starting to remind me of the 2023 Michigan team. It truly is. In terms of team unity, belief in themselves, most especially belief in their coaches and how they performed as a result. I'm starting to say, it's feeling like some potential team of destiny vibes. You still got to see how this season plays out, because things can still go haywire in the second half. But the fact that the Lions now are on the verge of doing something that they've never done before in franchise history, have back-to-back 10-win seasons, and they're about to do this before November is up, before even Thanksgiving, is amazing. And frankly, it shows to me that they're a team, like I said, they are definitely on a mission this year. They want to get that NFC Championship game back, but they want to get it in front of Ford Field so they can punch their ticket and get to that Super Bowl. That's what we've learned.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, the Chiefs lost to the Bills, so the Lions and Chiefs are both 9-1, tied for the best record in the NFL.
Yeah, but the Lions, they'll dog walk the Chiefs. They will body bag them if they meet up. I'm firmly believing that.
In Super Bowl 59.
If it was the Super Bowl, yes, because that's the only time that's the only scenario they would be having to meet up this year. But yeah, they'll dominate the Chiefs the way things are looking.
That's exactly what
I
meant.
would expect them to kick the Chiefs' ass. I would, yes.
Yeah, even with those illegal screens too, right? I've been hearing and reading about them on social media, but
bring your illegal screens, bring your reps, bring Taylor Swift, bring all your MAGA BS or whatever, or all your voodoo magic. We're still beating your asses.
Right. Some may have those.
Right. Bring your dynasty talk. Bring all this. Bring your Nick Wrights. Bring whatever. But if the Lions and the Chiefs are meeting in the Super Bowl, I am guaranteeing a victory.
Right.
No ifs, ands, or buts.
Yep. Gotta play the game on the field to win. So that's what we've learned on this episode of the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast. I'm Taylor Phillips. He's Ed Smith. Follow the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast on X, Instagram, and Twitter at Michigan_Truth, and like its Facebook page. Subscribe to its YouTube channel at the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast. Like our videos and turn on all notifications on the bell icon. Watch our live episodes in full to help improve its public watch hours. Follow it and listen to it in audio form on Spreaker. Also join its supporters club. Follow me on X, TikTok, Instagram, Blue Sky, and YouTube at DT2Phillips. Follow Ed Smith on X, Instagram, TikTok, Twitch, YouTube, and Blue Sky at EdSmith313. We have more business shout-outs now. First off, of course, Athletical Physical Therapy on Woodward and Ferndale, the B4 Foundation, Best Buy with Geek Squad in Traverse City, Cadillac Nutrition, Cali Tickets. Call 877-225-8425 or visit CaliTickets.com. Creative Embroidery of Cadillac for designing the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast logo on my long sleeve shirt and t-shirt. Cuts by Melanie in Lake City. The El Cilantro Taco Shop way up north in Petoskey, somewhere at the top of the Mitten, top of the Lower Peninsula. Baldwin Family Healthcare Dental Center in Cadillac. Hooters of Saginaw. It's a Denise Jewelry in Lake City. Let's Roll With It Rolled Ice Cream in Cadillac. Like them on Facebook. Follow them on TikTok at The Food Mafia and on Instagram at The Food Mafia Rolled Ice Cream. Michigan Coffee Company in Cadillac. Northern Auto Lab in Lake City. Northern Star Event Rentals in Cadillac, 231-884-8195 and on Facebook. Pro Quality Cleaners of Cadillac. The Raven Social Restaurant on South Mitchell Street in downtown Cadillac. Union Barber in Birmingham and Ferndale. United Food Service Solutions of Grand Ledge. United Mobile Power Wash and Dry Ice Works in Southfield. and well-being with Catherine Palms in Traverse City. The Michigan Sports Truth Podcast is a presentation of the Huddle Sports Network. Our next episode, Wednesday night, with a time to be determined. Until then, for Ed Smith, I'm Taylor Phillips. We'll preview Lions and Bears. Of course, we'll recap Lions and Colts and more on next Wednesday night. Again, with a time to be determined. Until then, for Ed Smith, I'm Taylor Phillips, signing off. But remember, we always observe and detect the truth about Michigan sports because the truth is out there. Stay on the lookout for him with a hind.
Stay safe, everybody. Go listen to Kendrick.